NBA playoffs, Eastern Conference semis, Game 3 on South Beach, and it's the 8-seed Heat taking out the New York Knickerbockers 105-86. They win it by 19. Jimmy Butler back after missing Game 2, had 4 days to rest that ankle. Yeah, looked pretty good today. 28 points, that was a game high. Max Strus poured in 19. Bam Adebayo, 17. Kyle Lowry, he had 14. Knickerbockers, Jalen Brunson, just 20 points. R.J. Barrett had 14. Not a good day for Julius Randle, 10 points. Was a little scuffle there late in the third quarter. Things did get back in order. Knicks, they never have to lead. The Heat never trailed in this one. They take a 2-1 series lead. They win it by 19, 105-86 the final near Key Biscayne, or Biscayne Boulevard. Let's go ahead and bring in James Herbert, CBS Sports NBA writer. And James, you were there for the first 2 games at MSG to see a split there. They go, the scene shifts from New York City down to South Beach, and it's the same result as we saw in Game 1. Jimmy Butler was back after missing that Game 2, had 4 days to rest that ankle. He looked terrific. How good was Jimmy Butler today? Didn't look like he had so much lift, but it looked like he was close to about 80 or 90%. What'd you see out there from Jimmy Butler? Playoff Jimmy.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, a game like this where it's kind of grimy, you're not making your threes, which, by the way, neither team was making their threes in this game. It does really help when you have one guy who can just go get you a bucket. Just one-on-one, get to his spot, rise up, and cash it. And he did that several times when the Heat needed it. I thought he was really good on both ends of the court. His job was different defensively in this game. You could see right from the opening tip, they had him guarding R.J. Barrett, which meant his job was, a lot more off the ball than when he was pressuring Jalen Brunson and trying to crowd him and taking him out of rhythm all the time like he did in Game 1. But I think that worked. The Heat had another great defensive game. The Knicks had a horrible offensive game. And, yeah, I mean, I doubt Butler is anywhere close to 100%, just based on how bad the injury looked at the time. But, I mean, he had a terrific effort despite that. And to do it kind of in every area of the game, like that kind of shows you how well-rounded of a player Jimmy Butler is.
Yeah, and, you look at it, James, the Heat were just in complete control. They never trailed in this game. Had the lead pretty much the entire game. Had the biggest lead was 22 in complete control here. What is it about the Heat culture? You listen to Kyle Lowry and some of these guys, Gabe Vincent, they talked earlier this week. It's about this team is built for the playoffs. Last year made it to the conference finals, got to Game 7, lost to the Celtics, had a Jimmy Butler 3 right at the end, maybe could have won it and stole that one. What is it about this Heat team that's went to the finals over the last few years as well that plays so well in the postseason when it matters most, James?
I think it's a few different things. Some of it, they kind of understand what it takes to win these tight playoff games. Not that today was particularly tight, but they tend to do well in terms of like the little things on the margins. Like they understand the importance of getting easy baskets in transition, of protecting the offensive glass. They have quite a few veteran players who have won at a high level before. I mean, even a guy like Kevin Love, like he did not have a great game today. He didn't make a ton of shots, but you saw the outlet passing again, like you saw in Game 1. That got them an easy bucket. You see the work he is putting in to just box out Mitchell Robinson under the basket. Like his former team, the Cavaliers, could not do that to Mitchell Robinson at all in the first round. Like, do you think they might have been able to use Kevin Love? I certainly think so. I think the second thing, beyond just sort of their toughness, their approach, their experience, all of that, is the coaching has been awesome throughout these playoffs. Eric Spoelstra had an incredible game plan against Milwaukee, and it wasn't the same in Game 5 as it was in Game 1. Remember, right at the end of that series, Bam Adebayo starts initiating the offense. They generate a ton of looks out of that setup, and you've seen again the strategy kind of shift from Game 1 to Game 2, and they got up a ton of threes and played zone for most of the game, to Game 3, where it looked a little bit different than it did in Game 1, even though they had the same assortment of players. I just think Eric Spoelstra is one of the best playoff coaches that we have in the NBA. You see that year after year after year.
Yeah, and I remember Coach Spo when I was in Miami in 2005-06. He was the video coordinator under Pat Riley back in that day. Let's switch real quickly and look at the Knicks before we get out of here. They were terrible. Could not throw it in the ocean. Shot 34%, 20% from 3. What's got to change for the Knickerbockers to get back in this thing? Game 4 coming up here. Just got 48 hours to get better here. What do the Knicks have to do, and can this be fixed? Because they've been struggling with the orange in these playoffs.
Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, like you said, 20% from three today, 8 of 40, but that is not like unrepresentative of how they've been in the playoffs. Like they've shot 27% in this series, 28% in the playoffs so far. And some of this is just kind of limitations of the roster. Some other parts of this is the rotation and who is actually on the court. I think the Knicks might want to take a page from the Warriors book, how they adjusted after the game one against the Lakers. And they just said, we're going to prioritize spacing and we'll take the lumps if we have to on the other. And you saw Phoenix, even last night, they did the same thing. They put more offense in the lineup because they thought, well, things are just too hard on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, especially with Chris Paul out. I think you really only saw the last 7 minutes of this game, Tom Thibodeau put a lineup in there that was like clearly geared toward offense. He went small with Randall and Toppin in the front court. He had Quickly and Brunson together and Quentin Grimes on the wing. That's 5 out. They could play finally. And the idea was kind of simple, like loosen up the offense a little bit, try to get some clean looks, try to not be so reliant on offensive rebounding and transition, which neither of those areas were even going that great for them today. They put together a little bit of a run. Emmanuel Quickly got hurt. That changes things. But even though it didn't lead to a huge comeback or anything, I do expect to see the Knicks at least try to get better spacing in terms of lineups they put out on the floor going into game 4, because the status quo is just absolutely not working offensively.
Yeah, no, they've got 48 hours to sort of get ready for game 4, which will be Monday night. And look, the Heat, they look good, and the Knicks, they got to show some fight like they did at the end of the third quarter when they were trying to, get a little tussle there. Show some of that fight when you're in the middle of the game and early on, maybe hit some shots. He is CBS Sports NBA writer James Herbert. Enjoy the rest of the season, this series, James. Really appreciate it. Speaking of this series, Eastern Conference semis here between the 8 seed and the 5 seed. Heat up 2-1, game 4, as we mentioned, on Monday night. Back down in Miami, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Then game 5 will be Wednesday, back in the big city, MSG, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Knicks in a bit of trouble, so they can even up this series on Monday night.